You don't need a supercomputer to run serious machine learning weather forecasts anymore. You need a clean Python sandbox, a reliable data source, and enough bandwidth to survive the first download. This guide gets from I have heard of NVIDIA Earth2 to I just ran a global forecast on my machine. Here is the thing, Earth2 isn't one app you double click. It's a stack, models, tools, and workflows. In this tutorial, the pipeline is simple and reusable. FCN3 as the model, GFS as the data source, and ZAR backend for input-output. The pattern is basically the whole mental model. Hardware-wise, it's honest. CPU works, but it's slow. Any modern NVIDIA GPU feels reasonable for a 3-day run. And a high VRAM workstation card feels smooth. We used an RTX 6000 with 48 GB VRAM. But that is an anchor, not a requirement. Plan roughly 5 to 10 GB for weights plus GFS data and expect a first round download tax. Then to run your first forecast, you drop in a tiny forecast.py, run UV, run python forecast.py, and you should see the model load. At first, the output saves in memory. That is intentional. Prove the pipeline works, then point ZAR at disk so you can reopen it later for plotting and analysis. Once you have crossed that first successful run, you are not installing Earth2 anymore, you are using it. For the full step-by-step installation guide with actual prompts, read the full article on Binaryverse AI. Link is in the description. Now let's jump into the detailed presentation.
It used to be that if you wanted to know what the atmosphere was doing on the other side of the planet, let alone predict it for next week, you needed, two things?
At least.
Yeah.
You needed a huge government building, probably windowless, full of PhDs.
And a supercomputer that basically needed its own hydroelectric dam to run.
Exactly. That was the barrier to entry. Weather was high stakes, high cost, centralized science. You didn't just dabble in global forecasting.
But today, we're looking at something that kind of flips that script entirely. We're looking at a guide that says all you really need now is a clean Python environment, a decent internet connection,
And a bit of patience to download a few gigabytes of data.
It's a huge shift.
Yeah.
We're exploring NVIDIA Earth 2, and specifically, we're walking through a guide on setting it up locally to run the FCN3 model.
Yes, and we should probably get something out of the way right up front.
Oh, please do, because the name Earth 2 has some baggage.
It does. This is not Earth2, the crypto game. Please do not confuse the two. This is NVIDIA Earth 2. It's an open ecosystem for weather and climate tooling. We're dealing with, fluid dynamics here, not non-fungible tokens.
Glad we cleared that up. So the mission for our discussion today is really specific. We're going to try and take you from, I think I've heard of AI weather models, to actually running a global forecast on your own machine.
And maybe even before you finish your lunch. We're going to walk through this setup sequentially, step by step.
Because the order of operations really matters here, doesn't it?
Oh, it's everything. It's the difference between a working forecast and just a screen full of red error text.
Okay, let's start with the first section of the guide then. It's called NVIDIA Earth 2 in 1 minute. And it makes a pretty bold promise right away.
It does. It says it can turn weather forecasting from a weeks-long infrastructure project into a weekend experiment.
So why was it a weeks-long project before? I mean, code is just code, right? What was so hard?
You'd think so.
Yeah.
But in the scientific Python world, there's this problem that people call dependency whack-a-mole.
Dependency whack-a-mole. I like that.
Yeah, it's when you spend 90% of your time just trying to get all the software libraries to talk to each other. You fix a NumPy version over here, and suddenly your Torch version breaks over there.
So you're spending more time being an IT guy than a scientist.
Exactly. The value here isn't magic. The guide calls it discipline packaging. It brings the models, the data access, and the I/O tools into one place, so you're not hunting for missing parts.
It's like finding a recipe that actually lists all the ingredients at the top instead of surprising you with add saffron halfway through.
That's a perfect analogy. And that leads right into what the stack actually is. Because Earth-2 isn't one single app you double-click.
Right, it's a family of tools. The source breaks it down into models, tools, and workflows. But for someone sitting at their computer, what are they actually touching?
They're mostly interacting with something called Earth2Studio. That's the glue layer. And the guide gives you this mental model, the Triad, which is really helpful for getting your head around it.
Okay, I like a good mental model. Break down the triad for us.
It's simple. Model plus a data source plus an I/O backend. Those three things together equal a forecast pipeline.
So in the case of this guide,
In our case, the model is FCN3, that's ForecastNet 3. The data source is GFS, the global forecast system from the U.S. government. And the I/O backend, how we handle the data, is a Czar container.
the guide also mentions something about ecosystem geography, which I think is important. It says the code lives on GitHub, but the model weights live on Hugging Face. Why are they in different places?
Yeah, this trips people up all the time. The instructions for the model, that's the code, but the intelligence, the massive files with all the learned patterns, they're huge.
Too big for GitHub.
Way too big. You break the repository. So Earth2Studio is the thing that wires those two worlds together for you, so you're not manually hunting for 50 gigabyte files.
Speaking of huge files, let's talk hardware. Heading 3. Hardware requirements and realistic performance tiers. This is the elephant in the room, isn't it? Can I run this on my MacBook Air?
The guide is refreshingly honest here. It says you can run this on a CPU, but, and I'm quoting here, you'll feel it in your bones.
Ooh, that sounds painful.
It means it's going to be incredibly slow. You'll hit run, go make a coffee, drink the coffee, maybe roast some new beans, and then come back to see how it's going.
Okay, so you really want an NVIDIA GPU.
For a comfortable experience, yes. The demo uses an RTX 6000 with 48 gigs of VRAM, which is...
It's a luxury card. That's not a graphics card.
It's the Cadillac experience for sure. But you don't need that to start. Any modern NVIDIA GPU will work. But here's the key insight. The bottleneck usually isn't raw speed, it's VRAM video memory and bandwidth.
Why bandwidth? Why does that matter more than, say, clock speed?
Because weather files are these massive multidimensional grids. You're trying to shove gigabytes of data through a tiny straw into the GPU.
Yeah.
If the straw's too narrow, the chip just sits there, waiting.
Like a Ferrari in a traffic jam.
Precisely. And for storage, you'll need maybe 5 to 10 gigabytes just for the model weights and initial data. But there's this great warning in the guide.
The reader promise. I saw that. If you crank the knobs, your machine will tell you the truth.
Right. If you try to run a high-res 30-day forecast on a consumer card, physics and hardware limits are going to stop you. The software won't save you from running out of RAM. It'll just crash.
Okay, so let's assume we have a machine that can handle it. We move to the pre-flight checklist. This seems like the measure twice, cut once section.
It's the 2-minute check that saves you 2 hours of frustration. First up, OS Linux is the clean path. If you're on Windows, you absolutely need to be using WSL2.
For Windows subsystem for Linux, native Windows is a no-go.
For these kinds of high-performance stacks, it's just an uphill battle. File paths get weird, permissions get weird. Just use WSL2, it saves so much pain.
And then Python. The guide says to pin the version.
Yeah, and the quote is great. You're not proving a point by letting your global Python mutate under you.
I love that. It's so true. You want stability.
You do. Most errors look like what the guide calls ransom notes, just a mess of garbled text. And that's usually because you miss one of the optional extras during install.
So boring, predictable stability. That brings us to heading 5 and the tool U.
Have you used it before?
I haven't, but I love how the guide describes it. It wants your future self to be happy.
That's a good way to put it. It's a super fast package manager that replaces pip. But the whole vibe is reproducibility. It uses lock files to lock down the exact versions of everything.
So no more archaeological digs through old environments trying to figure out what broke.
Exactly. The guide has you create a dedicated project directory and initialize it. It's a clean sandbox. Nothing from your other projects can interfere. A totally blank slate.
Okay, sandbox created. Now for the main event. Heading 6. Install Earth2Studio the reliable way. The guide is very specific about the order here.
This is where most people get it wrong. They install from the latest tag or do things in the wrong order. The guide says, pin to version 0.11.0.
And the order is?
First, install Earth2Studio with the FCN3 extras. Then you add the data extras.
Why does the order matter so much? Can't the package manager just figure it out?
In theory, maybe. In practice, it's about dependency resolution. You let it solve the model dependencies before you introduce the complex data libraries. As the guide says, "It broke today" is rarely a scientific breakthrough. It's usually just dependency drift.
Dependency drift. Let's clarify what these extras are that we're installing. What do they actually give us?
Think of it like buying a car and adding packages. The base car is Earth2Studio. The FCN3 Extra is the package that lets you load that specific model. The Data Extra gives you all the tools to handle the GFS data.
And the guide mentions eCodes-related pain.
That sounds ominous.
Oh, it can be. eCodes is a library for reading JBob files, which is a common weather data format. They're old, efficient, and notoriously difficult to work with if you don't have the right binary tools installed. The extras command just handles all that pain for us.
The guide also suggests a smoke test mindset. What's that? It's simple. Before you try to forecast the weather, just open Python and type import Earth2Studio.
And if that fails,
Then you don't have a weather problem, you have an installation problem. Fix that first. Don't try to run the marathon before you can tie your shoes.
it makes it feel like a real platform, not just a pile of scripts.
That's absolutely the goal.
Okay, smoke test passed. We're installed. Time to write some code. Heading 8. Your first forecast script with FCN3.
Right. This is the exciting part. We're making a file, forecast.py, and we're just building that pipeline from the Triad. Load the model, create the data source, set up the I/O.
And then we get to the knobs, the things you'll tweet endlessly. What are they?
First is the start date. You have to give the model an initial state of the atmosphere to start from, like January 1st, 2024.
Makes sense. It needs a jumping off point. Second,
Steps, or the forecast horizon. The script starts with n steps equals 12. Each step is 6 hours, so that gives you a 3-day forecast.
and the third knob.
The variables. You choose which fields you want to look at. Temperature, wind, pressure. You don't always need everything, so you can save memory by only calculating what you care about.
So the loop is define, launch, inspect, and iterate.
Simple, but powerful.
Okay, we have the script. Heading 9. Run it and confirm it worked. We type of run python forecast.py. What does success look like?
Success is refreshingly boring.
Boring is good.
In engineering, boring is fantastic. You see some logs pop up, loading model, fetching data, and then forecast complete. No crashes, no smoke, just done.
And the guide points out that for this first run, it's using the ZAR backend in memory.
Yeah, that's a key detail. It's not cluttering up your hard drive yet. The data just exists in RAM for a moment. It proves the whole pipeline works. At that point, you've crossed a psychological barrier. You're not installing anymore, you're using.
I love that shift.
Yeah.
So now we have this data in memory. What are we actually looking at? Heading 10 is understand the output like a forecaster.
Right. Don't just treat these as random tensors. The variable names have real physical meaning.
Okay, let's go through a few. T2 meters.
T2 meters is temperature at 2 meters. Basically, the temperature at human height, the temperature you actually feel.
U10 meters and V10 meters.
Wind components at 10 meters up. One is east-west, the other is north-south. Together, they give you wind speed and direction. You see level pressure. This shows you the high and low pressure systems, the big swirls on the weather map. If mammoth is low, you probably need an umbrella.
And TCWV.
Total column water vapor. How much moisture is in the entire column of air above you? Great for tracking things like atmospheric rivers.
The guide also breaks down the shape of the data. 1, 13, 721, 1440. That looks intimidating.
It's just the dimensions. 1 is your single start time. 13 is the number of time steps, your initial state plus the 12 forecast steps. And 721 by 1440, that's the global grid. It's a map of the whole world at a 0.25 degree resolution.
That's an incredible amount of data.
It is. And the guide makes a good point here about generative AI. This isn't like an AI looking at a picture and saying, that's a cat. It's predicting fluid dynamics. The fields have to stay physically coherent over time.
It has to obey the laws of physics, basically.
Well, it has learned the laws of physics from the data, ideally.
Now, even with a great guide, things go wrong. Heading 11 is the troubleshooting guide. What's the usual culprit?
Top of the list. Import error. You almost certainly skipped an extras group during the install.
Okay, QDA failure.
Driver mismatch. Your computer's NVIDIA driver and the software's CED version aren't talking to each other.
Data download fail.
That's usually just your network, a flaky connection, a corporate proxy. Something is blocking the download.
And the one we talked about, CPU works, but the GPU crashes.
100% a memory issue. You ran out of VRAM. You got greedy with the forecast length or the resolution.
And the fix is always to just dial back the knobs, right?
Yep. Fewer steps, smaller experiment, get it stable, then scale it back up.
So finally, we get to heading 12. Next steps. We have a successful run. What now?
Now the fun stuff starts. You can run ensembles. So instead of one forecast, you run 10 with tiny changes to see how uncertain the prediction is.
So you can see the range of possibilities.
Exactly. You can also try to push the forecast horizon out further, go for 10 days, but keep an eye on that memory.
And you can save the data.
Right. You change that ZAR backend setting to save the output to a file on your disk. Then you can open it up later in Notebook and actually analyze it.
The guide really pushes this idea of a workflow, not a one-off run.
That's the whole point. It's not about getting a cool screenshot to prove you did it. It's about having an open, production-shaped path to weather intelligence.
So zooming out, what have we really done here? We've gone from a totally fresh terminal to a global weather forecast running on a local machine in, what, maybe 20 minutes of work?
It's kind of remarkable when you think about it. We used to rely entirely on these huge institutions to tell us what the atmosphere was doing. That knowledge was centralized and very, very expensive.
And now it's in a Python script on a laptop.
Now it's in Python script.
Right.
It's the democratization of weather. So here's the thought I'd leave you with. If the barrier to entry is now just downloading a few gigabytes, what happens next? What happens when a small farm, a city planner, or just a curious student can run their own climate scenarios?
You don't have to wait for the 6 p.m. news anymore.
You can run the model yourself. It opens up this massive new frontier for innovation and understanding that just wasn't possible before.
Well, if you're listening, we encourage you to check out the guide, NVIDIA Earth 2, Local Setup and FCN3 Forecasting Guide, and actually get your hands dirty. Don't just listen to us talk about it.
Agreed. Go run the script.
Thanks for walking us through this. We'll see you on